Good morning, friends, and welcome to your virtual art class. I hope you're having a great start to your day and that you've had a great weekend, did something fun, maybe you went apple picking or just went for a hike or just got to be home and relaxed, reading a book. Anyway, I just hope you had a wonderful weekend with your families. Anyway, today we're going to get started on a new lesson that I think you're really going to like. Can be a little bit tricky, but I know you can do it. So I'm looking forward to getting started with you. First, before we get started, let's get ourselves ready to start creating. We're going to say our mantra. You can say it with me. You can say it in your head if you want, but let's just get focused and ready to go. Here we go. I am an artist. I create with my hands. I create with my heart. I create with my head. I can create anything. All right. So I am going to share with you a little PowerPoint that talks about tags and graffiti. And that is what our lesson is about. So I want you to think for a moment what you think you might know about graffiti. You can just sit and think for a second. You might have seen some graffiti around town. I know in Silva they have a lot of really beautiful things painted on the side of buildings. I know that you might think, well, some graffiti is illegal and some graffiti has been commissioned or asked to be done by the owner of a building or buildings. So you're right, when you see some graffiti out, some of that is illegal because they did it just to make their name or tag on a building or picture without asking for permission. But there's a lot of graffiti that's out there, like this one, that people have asked for just to help make a dull-looking building more interesting or brighter. This is a famous graffiti artist. His name is Banksy. He is from the United Kingdom. And a lot of his graffiti is about social issues and political issues. This, friends, is also a type of graffiti. These are cave paintings that have been done a long time ago in a cave in France. And these pictures depict, what life was like back a long time ago. So Banksy, like I said, is from the United Kingdom. And I put this picture before this picture, which is being created by Banksy. This is also what it was like inside the cave at Lascaux in France. So this is what the actual cave looks like, some paintings in there. And here it shows a street cleaner cleaning that graffiti off. So you can think about maybe what that might be meaning, and you could talk about it with the grown-up next to you, or just think about what you think that might mean. He's quite modern, Banksy. He's been active since 1990. And like I said, his work generally is related to politics and social issues. So for him, he feels like erasing graffiti now, which depict sometimes what's happening in the world and in our communities, would be the same as erasing this graffiti inside the caves in France and erasing that history. So he's kind of putting that in the same boat. This is some graffiti by the graffiti artist called Lady Pink. She is an American graffiti artist who was born in Ecuador. She started in 1979 and is known as the Graffiti Queen. Her work is all about empowering women and acts of self-rebellion and self-expression. So tags. Tags are a stylized signature. You know, like sometimes when you write your name, people are like, let me have your signature on this piece of paper. Sometimes people write it really crazy, but it's the same in graffiti, that people create special signatures or tags that let them know, that other people know that they were there. It usually is done in a color that contrasts with the background, so it makes the tag really stand out. And we first saw tagging in Philadelphia in 1959 in freeways surrounding the city. So, excuse me, under bridges and things like that, on the freeways, that's where we see the first tagging done in the United States. Tags are usually a nickname or a name of the artist. And it also can be a word that is relevant to the artist. So you can see one here is, this says Sarah, and that is, I'm assuming, the name of the graffiti artist. And this one, almost, could be a word that's important to the graffiti artist that they decided to use. And you can see all around here, this is a tag, this is a tag, this is a tag, all right? All of these are tags from different graffiti artists. So here's your challenge. You're going to use your name or your nickname or a word that's meaningful to you to create a tag. You can use one of the alphabets that I provided in the Google Classroom, or you can create your own tag, all right? And I'd like you to use at least 3 different colors in your words. All right, so let's get started. So in your art pack, you received the watercolor paper to do your James Rizzi project. And then you had a piece of colored paper, and you had a smaller piece of paper, and then a larger piece of white paper. Now this larger piece of white paper, I just got this for you to do as, you know, some doodling, so you could practice ideas. All right? The smaller piece of paper is actually another piece of nice watercolor paper that I'd like for you to actually use as your tag, as your artwork. So let's take a quick look-see at the at some of the alphabets that I have chosen that you could use as inspiration. And now I don't want you to feel intimidated by these alphabets, because I'm going to show you what you can do in order to create some of your own, all right? And if you look, they're just kind of created in kind of a funky, slanty way. All right. Here, a lot of the letters have arrows put on the end of the letters. These are just very stylized. I'm going to show you how you can create some puffy letters. And then these have some dimension to them, and I can show you how to create those as well. So just have these on hand as we are creating today. Now I'm going to show you some things on this kind of scratch piece of paper first before we get started on the nice paper. So the first thing you have to do is think about what name you would like to use, what name or word you would like to use. And I'm going to try to use one that has a lot of curves in it, because I know curves when creating letters and stuff can pose some problems. So I'm just going to write out Chris. Now no one calls me Chris, but I'm just going to use that because I feel like it's a good name to use to show some different things with lettering. All right, so I'm just going to start with the letter K, and I'm going to make it kind of small down here. And one of the first things I do is when I'm making a new font, and that's kind of like what we're doing here, is making a new font or type of letter, is I just start with the stick version of the letter. And I make it nice and big so that I can really work with it, all right? Now, one of the best ways to make a puffy letter is I can just go around this K just like this, and I'm just going to use round curves here to just kind of trace around my letter. Notice I'm not touching that letter at all. I just made a nice curve. Sometimes we tend to get really close to this, and so it doesn't really make it into a puffy letter, but that's how I would do it, all right? And then I could start with the next letter, and you know what? I'm just going to have it kind of connect to my K, and I'm going to make it again into just a stick letter, and I'm going to start tracing around it. So I'm going to stop when it touches to that part of the K. I'm going to go around. Notice I'm not touching any part of the stick letter, and I'm just going to have it end just like that. And then in the middle, I'm going to create that. All right. So now the I is super hard. Not really, that was me being sarcastic. So I'm just going to go around it like that. There's my I. Now, here's the tricky part. I'm going to make an S. And what I'm going to make sure I don't do is have the S touch these letters right now. I'll have them touch when I start going around. So I'm going to trace around that S just like that. There's my S, and I'm just practicing right now, friends. This is not my final piece because this is a little bit too small and it's not on the good paper. All right, I'm going to make a T, and again, I'm going to have that touch. Sometimes I just like to use all capitals because I feel like they're easier to draw around rather than using lowercase. So you might want to consider that as well. And I just want to show you, look at how much room I have between these stick letters. And that is so that I can make these puffy in between. And I really want to emphasize how important it is to do one letter at a time. If you write your name out first, then it's really hard to kind of gauge how you would put that all together, all right? So I'm going to do my A. I kind of ran out of space here, so I'm just going to really make it puffy here. There's my A. And I'm just having all that blend into the T. Then here's the middle. So I guess I didn't do Chris, I did Krista. I did my full name, all right? So that's one way, you know, right? That's kind of cool, I like that. Now, I'm gonna do one that might be a little bit different. So those are just normal stick letters, all right? But if I do something kind of like what we saw on our alphabets, all right, I'm just going to kind of look at those real quick. So if I, if I look here, I'm looking at one of the K's right now, and if I draw it in a stick way, it kind of looks like that. And I have this, and I have that, and I have that, okay? So it almost looks kind of lightning boltish. So I'm going to do the same thing. I am going to, so however you draw that initial stick letter is the same way where you could turn that into something puffy. And instead of doing round curves, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do more sharp or pointed ends to my letters. All right? Let me show you what that might look like with an S. When I look at the S there, it looks kind of like, almost like a number 5. So there's the S. Pretty strange. And I'm looking at the space that I've left here between the top of my S and this curve, and I'm realizing I'm going to have to make this a little bit longer just so that I can make it more dimensional. All right, so there's my S, and it's the same thing. I'm just going to follow, and I'm going to be really deliberate and pointy with my lines on the outside, just like that. All right, so you can see what that looks like. So some other things that I've noticed in the alphabets are when you are creating something, I'm just going to show you with the letter R because that's curved as well. I'm just going to do something. And then there's an arrow, all right? So I think that's a pretty cool letter. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just, trace around that, just like I would with my other letters. The key, friends, is making sure that you're leaving yourself enough room. And I really, really recommend practicing. If you just start directly on your good paper, you might get a little bit frustrated, all right? Now, in the end, you can decide if you want to keep this in the center of your letter or if you'd like to get rid of it. That's all up to you. You can do it any way you'd like. You can keep it or you can get rid of it. I like to keep it because it allows me maybe to add another color into my artwork if I do something like that, rather than just leaving it plain. All right, let's see if we can come up with another type of letter. Let's say I do this, this. All right, it's the same thing. All right, I can just carefully go around my letter. Like that. And I might have to just incorporate that part of the A that I have there and then add my middle part. I just want to show you what that looks like now when all of that middle part is erased. And you can see what it can do. Friends, I just really want you to have fun creating your own letters. I think it's a super fun activity. It takes a minute, right? It takes you some time to kind of figure out what you want to do. But if you take your time and really decide what you want your letters to look like, I think you will enjoy it. And I think you can come up with something really, really amazing. All right. The key is making sure you draw lightly and just leaving yourself enough space. Okay, so this week we are just drawing our word, all right? I want your word to have at least 3 letters in it. So that's important. And the more of the space you use, the easier it's going to be, all right? So I am going to try to fit my name on here, and if I don't, I will stick with the word Chris, all right? So we have a tendency to want to write really dark and really big at the beginning. Try not to do that. So I'm going to start with my K, and I'm going to first draw light, and then I'm going to go over it so you can see it a little bit better. And I like the look of the arrows, so I'm going to use arrows. So I'm just going to go over that dark again so you can see I've made my first kind of stick letter. There it is. Now I'm going to trace around it. Just like that. Notice how I didn't try to go all the way inside. If I do that, you're going to make it a very, very skinny here. So I just went in a little bit just to kind of give the idea of that pointy angle. And now I am almost done with my first letter. All right, so there's my K. All right, now I'm going to do my R, and I'm going to put that at a slant. So, and it's going to touch. So there's the start of my R. And again, it's going to be pointy. And it's going to have an arrow. And now I'm going to trace around it. I really like to emphasize sometimes the end of my points, just because I think it makes it look a little bit more interesting. All right, so there's my R. Now I'm going to do my I. Now the I, I'm going to have slant this way. And this is also so I can try to make sure that I have all of my letters on my paper. So I'm going to make an I, a definite capital letter I that has the top and the bottom, like that. And I'm going to swoop up to kind of give a dramatic look. And I'm not putting an arrow on this one because I don't really see where I could put an arrow. And I'm okay with that. Right, so there's my I. Now I have to think about my S. And I'm going to kind of tuck that in here. So remember too, I'm not going to really let those touch because the S is curvy, all right? And remember how it kind of looked like the number 5? And I'm actually going to let it go through here so I can put that arrow on it. So here is my letter S, and I'm tracing around it. There's my arrow. Now I think I'm going to be able to fit T and A on here. So I'm just going to go for it. So my T is going to slant this way. And it's going to kind of have almost the same look as the letter I. And it's going to pass through my, and I am going to put an arrow on my T. Just like that. So the T is kind of an easier letter to trace around. And see how, again, I used all capital letters? It just makes it, for me, it just makes it easier to kind of create a new font. And now I'm going to end with my letter A. And here we go. And I'm going to have it point this direction. All right. So I'm going to go here. I'm not sure how I feel about that part in the middle of my A. I might change that up a bit. So maybe it's going to touch the T there. All right. So there, friends, is my graffiti. Now, like I said, I can decide to erase the middle part, or I can just leave it. It's completely up to you. Once I finish drawing this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of trace around the contour of this name. Just kind of like that. This is going to tell me how to cut it out later. All right? I want to make sure that all the letters are going to be all connected. So I'm not cutting them out separately. So I'm just making one big continuous line. And I'm just kind of dipping down when I can dip down. And this can be another kind of interesting design element when you are getting started with this project. Now, you see how I did that? I just kind of created this one line, just kind of following and creating almost like a little road all the way around. Notice I didn't go all the way up in here or all the way up in here. I just kind of made little indentations. And now if you want, you can trace around it again. And what that's going to do is it's going to allow you to add yet another color. Remember how I asked you to use at least 3 colors with your words? Well, this is one way you could do it. You could have your words, the letters be one color, and you could have the outside be one color, and then this set be one color. But here I am just about done for this week. I'm going to finish. There I go, just like that. If I wanted to, I could put a little symbol in here if I wanted. All right. Sometimes people do that, like maybe make a heart or. All right. I could do that. I could do that as a symbol in my letter as the opening, like in this letter A. All right. I'm also going to make the decision whether or not I'm going to keep these lines. And I think I probably am, because that will allow me to add even another color in a way that might make it look effective and interesting. So this is as far as I want you to get, friends. I want you to spend a good amount of time practicing, trying things out, looking at the examples I gave you, maybe looking on the internet for different kinds of graffiti alphabets that you can look at, all right? But I really, really, really want you to try things out before you commit to how you want your name to look, all right? And especially practice some of those tricky letters that you might have in your Word so that you can really perfect those when you make your final. Okay, so I'm done now. I have my pencil drawing and I'm ready to go next week. So friends, we're going to end today with a mindfulness exercise. It has definitely gotten chillier out. We are now in the season of fall. So what I want you to do, excuse me, is pretend that you have a nice, cozy, warm, hot cup of hot chocolate that you're holding on to. And you just can't wait to take your first sip, but it's way too hot. So just feel that warmth in your hand. Take a big deep breath in and blow on your hot chocolate to cool it off. And feel how your shoulders rise and fall as you breathe in and breathe out. Let's do that again. Take a big deep breath in. Cool off your hot chocolate. One more time. And I don't know about you, but I can't wait to take my first sip. So I'm going to take a sip and I'm going to let everyone know how good it is. And just let that sound go as long as you can. Take another sip. Put your hot chocolate down and take one more deep breath in and let it out. Friends, I hope you have the most amazing day. I cannot wait to see your projects. They are going to be beautiful. Just take your time designing your name and have fun with it. Talk to you later. Be happy. Bye-bye.